Naomi didn't even have time to take a step on the red carpet of the private terminal before the handcuffs clicked. "Ma'am, put your hands behind your back. You're under arrest." One of the officers, white, tall, and cold-eyed, didn't even try to explain himself. His fingers pressed firmly into her wrists. Everything was happening against a backdrop of camera flashes. Someone from airport security was already filming. "What are you doing?" Naomi started, but her voice trembled. She was wearing an immaculate ivory pantsuit that was now crumpled under the grip. Chanel sunglasses fell to the ground, shattered. She still smelled of expensive jasmine perfume from Singapore, and already she stood shackled like a suspect. "Contraband," the second policeman threw in. "You know what you were doing." She didn't. She knew something else, and her luggage, only a tablet, a laptop, and contracts worth hundreds of millions. And in their eyes, only her skin color. The holding cell was cold. Not the kind of cold you feel in your skin, the kind that sinks into your bones and stays there. Naomi sat on a metal bench with chipped blue paint, her wrists still sore from the cuffs. Her phone, her passport, even her earrings, gone. Confiscated. She had flown across oceans, sealed a game-changing clean energy deal in Singapore, and now she sat in a windowless room like a criminal. One of the officers, the younger one, watched her through the glass. He didn't speak. He just stared. What did they think I smuggled? Diamonds? Drugs? Myself? Her breathing was steady, but her mind raced. Naomi had learned early in life, don't cry in front of men who think you don't belong. A door buzzed. The older cop entered, the one who grabbed her first, badge slightly tarnished, eyes sharp like he was always hunting. He tossed a file onto the table. Naomi Wallace. Born Detroit. Net worth north of $200 million. You fly private a lot. Funny thing is, you never land here. I don't owe you an explanation, she said coolly. But I do expect an apology. And my lawyer. He smirked. No lawyer yet. You're not being charged. Just questioned. You came in flagged. Random security check. Random, the word hit like a slap. Every black person she knew had a random story. Today was hers, but she wasn't just another woman on another watch list, she was Naomi Wallace, and someone had made a serious mistake. She leaned forward. You're going to regret this. He smiled wider. I doubt it. The holding cell was sterile, the kind of clean that feels dirty. White walls. Flickering overhead light. No clock, no windows. Just time stretching endlessly between blinks. Naomi sat on the icy metal bench, her back straight, her wrists red from the handcuffs they'd only just removed. Her custom-tailored jacket was wrinkled, stained slightly from the rough hands that shoved her into the squad car. Her heels, Louboutin, now scuffed. She was worth $200 million. And they treated her like a street criminal. Her gaze was locked on the mirrored glass opposite her. She wasn't naive, she knew what it was. A two-way mirror. Eyes were behind it. Watching. Judging. Probably betting on when I'll break, she thought. She wouldn't give them the pleasure. The door opened. Not dramatically. Just a soft buzz and a mechanical click. Like everything else here, impersonal. In walked the older cop. Mid-50s. Flat top haircut. Gun on his hip like it was part of his spine. He looked like every bad memory she'd ever had of being underestimated. He tossed a folder onto the table. Naomi Wallace. Detroit born. Private jet. Big money. No wedding ring. No kids. He leaned forward slightly. Must be lonely at the top. Naomi didn't answer. She didn't blink. He flipped open the folder. Multiple international trips. Multiple bank accounts. Multiple aliases used for business. He tapped the page, smirking. That enough multiple for you? Naomi tilted her head. Do I look like someone who hides? The cop's eyes darkened. He wanted her scared. He wanted her small. She refused. He leaned on the table. You were flagged before landing. Suspicion of smuggling classified tech. Possibly biological materials. Naomi scoffed. That's a hell of a jump from a clean energy startup. His voice turned sharp. You're not the only one who knows how to hide behind shell companies. Let's not pretend your little Singapore energy trip didn't cross into restricted zones. That one landed. Naomi's stomach twisted, not in guilt, but in realization. They weren't just fishing. They had something. Or thought they did. But it wasn't real. It was planted. Framed. Chase's move, from behind the mirrored wall, another voice crackled through an earpiece. Younger. Uncertain. She doesn't match the profile. This feels off. The older officer waved the voice off. Her jet's tail number was tagged by DHS. She's not clean. A pause. Even if she is, we're covered. It's standard procedure. Naomi's heart was thudding now. Not from fear. From fury. This wasn't about evidence. It was about assumptions. Power. Control. And maybe silencing her. She closed her eyes for a second. Focused. Stay composed. Stay strategic. She opened them again. I want a lawyer. The cop shook his head. No charges yet. No rights to invoke. Just a friendly chat, Ms. Wallace. Then, with a grin. Unless you wanted to go another way. In the front of the building, a woman in a jet black suit stepped through security like she owned the building. Tall, composed. The kind of woman who didn't ask for permission because no one ever made her. She flashed a badge, not police, not FBI, not anything identifiable. It didn't matter. The receptionist's face drained of color. She picked up the phone. Back in the cell, Naomi's fingers tapped the metal table, slow, calm. You don't know who I am, do you? The cop's smile faltered. For a flash, just one, he looked nervous. Like maybe, she wasn't bluffing. Suddenly. Buzz. The door opened again. And there she was. The woman in the suit. She walked in like gravity bent around her. Glanced at Naomi. Then at the officer. She's leading with me. Now. The cop stood, defensive. I don't take orders from. You do today. She handed him a sealed letter. He opened it. His face turned white. Naomi stood, smoothing her jacket. She looked the cop dead in the eye. You just made the wrong enemy. The buzz of fluorescent lights hummed overhead. Naomi glanced at the mirrored glass. She knew someone was watching from the other side, but she also knew how to hold a stare, even if no one met it. Her heart beat in her throat, but her face was a mask. Then the door opened. Not the one the cops used, the side door. Quiet. Controlled. In walked a woman. Tall. Black suit. Red lipstick like war paint. And the kind of confidence that came from knowing you had the power to ruin someone's career with one phone call. She didn't introduce herself. She simply slid a card across the metal table to Naomi. A government seal. Not FBI. Not local. Something deeper. Naomi raised an eyebrow. And who are you supposed to be? The woman smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. Let's just say I don't like seeing billion-dollar assets being mishandled by mall cops with badges. Before Naomi could speak, the woman continued. Your arrest wasn't an accident. Someone flagged your tail number 2 days ago. They were looking for an excuse. Naomi's blood chilled. Who? The woman glanced at the mirror. That's what I'm here to find out. But first, you're leading this room. Now. Outside the station, 2 officers stood behind their squad car, laughing over bad coffee. A black SUV with diplomatic plates pulled up. 3 men stepped out, none in uniform. One of them had a folder marked classified, eyes only. And inside it, a photo of Naomi Wallace. With a single handwritten note. She knows. Shut it down. Naomi didn't speak as they walked through the back hallway of the station. The walls here weren't meant for visitors, scuffed linoleum, exposed pipes, buzzing fluorescent lights. The black-suited woman led with sharp, precise steps. No badge flashing. No words. Just presence. As they passed a holding cell, Naomi noticed a young Latino boy, maybe 17, sitting on the bench, eyes wide, clearly terrified. Their gazes met for just a moment. Recognition. She saw herself in him. And he saw something in her, too. That was the moment Naomi Wallace stopped being a detainee. And became a threat. The SUV waiting outside was matte black and gleamed like a shadow. Not police. Not government. Other. Windows tinted deeper than legal. Tires silent on the pavement. As the woman opened the door, Naomi glanced up at the station, saw the officer who cuffed her watching from the window. His face was blank. Or maybe scared. Naomi didn't smile. She didn't need to. Inside the car. Cool air. Leather interior. No music. No driver. This armored? Naomi asked. The woman simply nodded. Then. You're lucky we got to you before they did. Naomi raised an eyebrow. Before who? A pause. Then came the answer that changed the tone completely. ARCs. The woman handed Naomi a tablet, locked, encrypted. Naomi unlocked it with a fingerprint, and what she saw made her blood chill. Satellite pings. Tail number logs. Her jet tracked in real time. Emails flagged by an AI system. Not government, corporate. ARX wasn't law enforcement. They were private. Predatory. Hired guns with data centers. Naomi had heard of them in whispers, a private intelligence group that specialized in black ops for the rich. The kind of people who don't exist until you're in their crosshairs. Naomi muttered. This wasn't about customs or contraband. It was a hit. The woman turned to her. Chase Morgan authorized it. Naomi leaned back into the seat, heart pounding but hands steady. Chase. She should have known. 3 years ago, they started a company together, a dream born in garages and late-night pitch decks. They built next-gen energy systems. She had the science. He had the venture capital. He was charming. White. Connected. And at first, she thought he respected her. Until the day she saw her name erased from her own patent application. Until the day ARX got involved. She looked at the woman. You said they flagged my plane 2 days ago. Why? The reply came like a bullet. They think you took something with you from Singapore. Naomi blinked. I didn't. The woman met her gaze. Are you sure? Naomi's tablet buzzed with a silent notification. New message. Sender unknown. She tapped it. Just a string of numbers. Coordinates. An IP address. One she recognized from her Singapore Labs black box server. And a message. It wasn't about what you brought. It was what you saw. She inhaled sharply. That facility. That one restricted level she wasn't supposed to have clearance for, the day the doors glitched and opened. There'd been something there. A room. A prototype. A name she hadn't thought about since. Nightfall. Her blood ran cold. She turned to the woman. I need to see everything ARX has on Project Nightfall. The woman didn't flinch. You already have. You just don't remember it yet. The SUV curved off the freeway into an underground parking structure Naomi had never seen, biometric gate, no cameras. Whoever this woman was, she had serious reach. Before they exited the car, Naomi paused. "Why help me?" The woman's answer was quiet. "Because I saw what they did to my sister. Because I've been waiting for someone who could take them down from the inside." Then she looked at Naomi dead on. "You're not a fugitive, Naomi. You're a weapon. And they're terrified you'll remember what they tried to bury." Naomi clenched her fists. For the first time since the plane landed, she smiled. Naomi didn't say a word as the agent, or whatever that woman was, walked her out of the station. The cops didn't meet her eyes. The smug one? Now pale, silent, staring at the floor. He knew he'd messed up. But Naomi didn't smile. She wasn't done. They stepped into the black SUV. Doors shut with a solid, bulletproof thunk. Inside, cool leather, tinted windows, and silence. Naomi looked at the woman beside her. "So, you're with the government?" The woman gave a half smile. "Not officially." Naomi crossed her arms. "You said someone flagged me." "Who?" "That's the thing," the woman said, pulling a tablet from her briefcase. "It wasn't the DEA. Not Customs. Not FBI. It came from a private intelligence contractor." She tapped the screen. A logo appeared. Stark white text on black. ARC's Integrity Group. Naomi's breath caught. She knew that name. ARX was one of the most secretive, most well-connected private surveillance companies in the world, with deep roots in military and corporate espionage. And one of their top investors? Her own ex-business partner, Chase Morgan. The man she'd once trusted. The man she'd just cut out of a $400 million deal overseas. Her voice went flat. "Chase set me up." The woman just nodded. "Looks like it. And ARX doesn't play small. If they've flagged you, it means they're scared of what you've got." Naomi clenched her fists. Her entire body buzzed with fury, not just at the cops, not just at Chase, but at the system that had let it happen. "I'm not hiding," she said. "If they want a war, they've got one." The woman's eyes glinted. "Good. Because they just made it personal." As they drove toward Naomi's penthouse, a signal pinged from her home security system. "Front door, breach detected. Cameras offline. Backup power, disabled." And the last image recorded? A man in a black mask, holding a tablet with the ARX logo glowing on the screen. By the time the SUV reached her building, Naomi's jaw was locked with tension. Her penthouse was in a high-security smart tower, biometric locks, 24/7 AI surveillance, motion sensors in every room. It was supposed to be impenetrable. But now, someone had gotten in. The black-suited agent beside her tapped into the feed from her phone, trying to override the signal jam. "They knew your system," she muttered. "This isn't just a scare tactic. They're looking for something." Naomi stared out the window as the car pulled into the underground garage. Her voice was low, steady. "They think they're ahead. They're not." As they stepped into the elevator, Naomi opened a hidden app on her watch, a protocol she'd hoped she'd never need. Falcon 0 initiated. Her entire digital network, cloud drives, security backups, sensitive documents, began silently migrating to a secure vault server she co-designed in Singapore. It would take 5 minutes. She needed 6. The elevator doors slid open directly into her penthouse. The lights were off. Furniture overturned. Glass on the floor. But there was something else. A smell. Burnt plastic. The main server rack in her office melted. Data cores torn apart, wires gutted. Her lips parted, just slightly. They weren't just looking for something. They were trying to erase it. The agent swept ahead, gun drawn. Naomi, hand trembling only slightly, moved to her backup safe in the wall behind a painting. She entered the code. Nothing. Wrong password? No. The keypad was hot. Someone had torched it. Suddenly, a noise. From the hallway. A soft click. Then, a man's voice. You weren't supposed to be back so soon. Naomi turned. And there he was. Chase Morgan. His white button-down shirt was rolled at the sleeves, his tie loose, a silver pistol dangling casually from his hand. He looked almost bored. Naomi, he said, you're making this a lot more difficult than it needs to be. The air in the penthouse was thick with heat, broken glass, and betrayal. Naomi stood face to face with Chase Morgan, the man she once trusted with her ideas, her business, her name. Now he stood in her ruined home, holding a gun like it was just another boardroom prop. The agent kept her weapon low but ready. Naomi didn't flinch. She spoke first. What are you really here for, Chase? The prototype? The patent? Or just to prove you still own me? He gave a soft laugh. Still so dramatic, nay. You always thought this was personal. He took a step closer. It's not. It's just money. But Naomi saw it in his eyes. Oh, it was personal. Flashback, 3 years earlier. They stood on a balcony in Dubai, glasses clinking, champagne bubbling under the stars. Chase had looked over the skyline and said, You and me, we're gonna change the world. Build something bigger than all of them. Naomi believed him. She'd shared everything, her designs for zero-emission turbines, the clean energy network blueprint, the offshore accounts for privacy. They were building an empire. Until she discovered the offshore accounts weren't just hers. And the bigger than all of them part? He meant without her. Naomi's voice was calm, but cold. You sold my research to ARX. You tried to bury my name from the patents. And when I went public without you, you called in your little hit squad. Chase shrugged. It's business, sweetheart. You knew the stakes. She took another step forward. I didn't know you'd be this sloppy. He raised the pistol slightly. Don't test me. Naomi didn't blink. Behind her, the agent's comms crackled. A voice whispered through. Incoming. 3 contacts. Hostile. ETA, 90 seconds. Chase's smile dropped. He turned his head slightly, distracted. That was all Naomi needed. She moved fast, like she'd been trained. Kicked the pistol from his hand, hard. It clattered across the floor. The agent dove forward, pinning Chase to the marble with a knee to his back. Naomi grabbed her tablet from the safe remains and opened the Falcon Zero vault. All her files. Every corrupt wire transfer. Every ARX contract. Every classified memo Chase had tried to erase. And one more thing. A video file labeled Project Nightfall, Proof. She tapped it. Watched a thumbnail load. A man in an ARX facility. A lab. And cages. Human-sized. Medical equipment. Muffled screams. Naomi's face drained of color. This wasn't just about patents. This was something else. Something darker. And now she was holding the match. The lasers moved. Naomi didn't breathe. 3 red dots tracked across the glass, slow, scanning, like lions circling the edge of the kill zone. Chase groaned beneath the agent's knee. They're not gonna shoot, he muttered. Not with me here. Naomi turned her head, eyes like steel. You really think they care who they kill to clean this up? The agent's earpiece crackled again. Engagement authorized. Repeat, green light. Target, Wallace. Oh. They cared. Just not about him. Suddenly. Crack, boom. A sniper round shattered the glass. A burst of air pressure exploded through the penthouse, blowing papers, glass, and debris into a cyclone. The agent yanked Naomi down behind the marble kitchen island. Another round tore through the bar. "We need extraction," the agent shouted into her mic. "Negative," came the voice. "Building compromised. ARX has ground access." Naomi grabbed her tablet, shoved it into a shockproof bag, and zipped it up. Her ears rang. Her mind didn't. She was done playing defense. "The elevator's out," she yelled. "We go down through the maintenance shaft. There's a drop ladder in the HVAC crawlspace behind the media room." The agent blinked. "You designed an escape route?" Naomi didn't even look back. "I grew up black and brilliant in America." "Of course I did." They moved fast, low, dodging laser sweeps. Behind them, more glass shattered. A flashbang exploded in the hallway, washing the room in white. Naomi and the agent slid into the crawlspace, boots crunching broken tech underfoot. Chase tried to follow. Naomi turned. Met his eyes. "You stay. You clean up your own mess." Then she kicked the vent shut and sealed it with the magnetic lock. His screams followed them as they dropped down into the guts of the building. 15 minutes later. Back alley. Breathless. Bloody. Alive. They slipped into an unmarked vehicle, a self-driving sedan Naomi had stashed for emergencies. The agent turned to her. "What's in that file?" "Project Nightfall. What the hell were they doing?" Naomi held the tablet tightly. Then, finally, she spoke. "It's worse than weapons. Worse than surveillance." She pulled up the video again. Children. Hooked to neural implants. Monitored like lab rats. Corporate logos in the background. ARCs. Pharma companies. Tech giants. Naomi whispered. They weren't smuggling drugs or weapons. They were building programmable minds. The car's NAV screen glitched. Then a voice came through the speakers, distorted, male, familiar. "Hello, Naomi. You should have stayed in Singapore." Naomi stared at the screen. Recognized the voice. It wasn't Chase. It was someone higher up the chain. Someone she didn't even know had her number. The car sped through the city, AI-controlled, untraceable. But even Naomi could feel it. They were being watched. Tracked. Listened to. The voice on the NAV screen had gone silent, but its message echoed. "You should have stayed in Singapore." Naomi tapped into the tablet again. Falcon Zero had finished uploading the full contents of Project Nightfall to her private black box server, hosted off-grid, encrypted, unreachable. It was her kill switch. Her insurance. Her power. The agent beside her, now bleeding from a graze on her temple, looked over. "Where are we going?" Naomi's answer was quiet but thunderous. "To bring the whole thing down." 2 hours later. Secret location. Downtown LA. A private underground server farm. Naomi's. Shielded from satellites. And livestream ready. She stood in front of a single lens, no lights, no makeup. Just her, the truth, and rage held together by brilliance. "My name is Naomi Wallace. And what you're about to see will change the world." She tapped the screen. Behind her, on every device linked to her network, laptops, phones, even Times Square, the video of Project Nightfall went live. Children. Neural control tests. Government contracts. Tech companies smiling in press conferences while secretly funding mind programming experiments on the most vulnerable. Within minutes, the world saw everything. Names. Faces. Bank accounts. And a list of ARX collaborators in law enforcement. Including the 2 officers who arrested her at the airport. One officer watching the stream drops his coffee. "Turn that off. Turn that off." But it's too late. An internal affairs team is already walking through the doors. Behind them, federal agents. And handcuffs. The agent watches her with awe. You just made enemies with half the world. Naomi slides the tablet into her bag. No. They made me an enemy. I just finally decided to fight like one. She turns to leave. And I'm not done. Naomi steps off another private jet. Different country. Different purpose. Reporters flood the tarmac, but she doesn't stop to talk. She has meetings with the UN. She has investors ready to fund a new tech alliance, one run by women, people of color, and those the system tried to silence. She has Chase's empire collapsing. She has ARX scrambling. And most of all, she has power. Not stolen. Earned.